Welcome to the Fate Spun channel, a place where every story will make you feel, wonder, and hold your breath. Are you ready? Then go ahead. Story number 1. The day my daughter wasn't there. I never considered myself someone who believed in glitches or alternate realities, but something happened last month that I can't shake. I live with my wife Emma and our 6-year-old daughter Lily. It was a regular Sunday morning, and we had our usual lazy breakfast: pancakes, coffee, and Lily insisting on extra syrup. After breakfast, I told Emma I'd take Lily to the park so she could have some quiet time. Emma thanked me, kissed Lily on the forehead, and waved us off as we left. We walked hand in hand to the park a few blocks away. Lily was excited to play on the swings, as always. When we got there, it was surprisingly empty. Just the two of us. I pushed her on the swings, helped her climb the monkey bars, and even joined her on the slide when she begged. It was perfect father-daughter time. After about an hour, I told her it was time to head back. She pouted as usual, but eventually grabbed my hand and we started walking home. Here's where things get weird. As we turned the corner to our street, I felt a strange sense of displacement, like the air was thicker for a moment. I brushed it off as nothing and walked into the house. "Hey, we're back," I called out. Emma walked out of the kitchen, drying her hands on a towel. She looked confused. "Back from where?" "From the park," I said, gesturing toward Lily, who was standing next to me. Except she wasn't. Emma's face went pale. "What are you talking about? Lily's been napping in her room for the past hour." I froze. "No, she's right." I turned to point at her, but there was no one there. My hand was empty. Panic set in. I ran to Lily's room and there she was, curled up under her favorite unicorn blanket, fast asleep. I shook her gently and she woke up, groggy and annoyed. "Daddy?" she mumbled. "Were you at the park with me just now?" I asked, my voice trembling. She looked at me like I was crazy. "No, I was sleepy." Emma stood in the doorway, her hand over her mouth, tears welling in her eyes. "What's going on?" she whispered. I couldn't explain it. I knew I'd spent the last hour with Lily. I remembered the feel of her hand in mine, her laughter on the swings, the way she giggled when I went down the slide. It was real. It had to be. But then it wasn't. I spent the rest of the day in a fog, replaying everything in my head. Emma avoided me, probably scared I'd lost it. And honestly, I was scared too. Was it a dream? A hallucination? Or was it something else entirely? I don't know. But every time I look at Lily now, I can't help but wonder, which version of her did I spend that hour with? Story number 2. The wrong reflection. I've lived in my apartment for over 3 years, and nothing about it has ever felt particularly unusual. It's a standard one-bedroom with creaky floors and too thin walls. But it's home. Or at least it was. It started a few weeks ago, right after I got back from a late-night grocery run. I was putting things away when I noticed something odd. The small decorative mirror I kept on the kitchen counter seemed off. It wasn't cracked or dirty, but the reflection didn't feel right. At first I thought it was the lighting. The fluorescent bulb in the kitchen casts weird shadows sometimes, so I ignored it. But over the next few days I started paying closer attention. The reflection lagged, not by much, just a fraction of a second. But it was enough to notice. If I raised my hand, the reflection would do the same, but it felt like it was always half a beat behind. I told myself I was imagining it. Stress, lack of sleep, too much caffeine, logical explanations. But the more I watched it, the less logical it became. One night, I decided to test it. I stood in front of the mirror, holding my breath, and moved my left hand slowly upward. The reflection copied me, perfectly in sync. I let out a nervous laugh, relieved that everything was normal. But then, just as I was about to turn away, the reflection smiled. I didn't. I froze, staring at it, my heart pounding in my chest. The smile wasn't sinister or exaggerated. It was just a slight curve of the lips, like someone enjoying a private joke. But I wasn't smiling. I stumbled back, nearly knocking over a chair, and the reflection went still. It stared back at me, expressionless now, mimicking my every move again. I couldn't sleep that night. I moved the mirror into a drawer and told myself it was over. Out of sight, out of mind, but it wasn't. The next day, I caught a glimpse of myself in the bathroom mirror, and for a split second, I saw that same smirk. It vanished almost immediately, but I know it was there. I started avoiding mirrors altogether. It didn't matter. Every reflective surface, windows, phone screens, even the dark surface of my coffee, felt like it was watching me. Last night, I woke up to a sound in the kitchen. I grabbed my phone for light and crept out of bed. The mirror was back on the counter, propped up exactly where it used to be. I didn't put it there. I'm writing this now, sitting in my bedroom with the door locked. I don't know what's going on, but I can feel it. Whatever's in the reflection is getting closer, and I don't think it wants to stay on the other side anymore. Story number 3, the vanishing train. I've taken the same train to work for years. Same platform, same time, same seats if I'm lucky. It's routine, predictable, boring. That's why I almost didn't notice when something changed last week. Almost. It started like any other morning. The train pulled up right on time, its doors hissing open, and I stepped in with the usual crowd. I grabbed my favorite seat, third row, window side, and settled in for the 20-minute ride to downtown. But something was off. The car felt empty. Not physically, of course. There were people scattered around, some reading, others scrolling their phones, but the air itself felt hollow. Like the sound of the train gliding on the tracks was muted, swallowed by something I couldn't see. I brushed it off as exhaustion and closed my eyes. When I opened them, we were pulling into a station I didn't recognize. That was strange. I knew this route by heart, and this stop wasn't part of it. The station didn't even have a name, just a blank metal sign bolted to the wall. The platform was eerily clean, almost clinical, and completely deserted. No one else seemed to notice. The passengers didn't react, their faces locked into expressions of apathy. A few people got off the train as if this was where they always got off, but no one got on. When the doors slid shut and the train started moving again, I leaned over to the woman sitting across from me. She was staring out the window, her face blank. "Excuse me," I said. "Do you know where we are?" She didn't respond. Her eyes shifted slightly to meet mine, but there was no recognition, no spark of humanity, just emptiness. I felt a chill crawl down my spine. I stood up, moving toward the next car, but the door wouldn't budge. I tried the emergency intercom. It was dead. The train stopped again. This station looked even stranger than the last. The walls were covered in rusted metal panels, and the lights flickered overhead. The passengers started to stand, moving toward the doors like they were in a trance. "Wait!" I shouted. "This isn't right! Where are we?" No one answered. They stepped off the train one by one, disappearing into the dimly lit platform. Panicked, I turned to the conductor's cabin, pounding on the door. "Hey, what's going on? Where are we going?" No response. The train started moving again, but now I was the only one left. Every seat was empty, the car silent except for the rhythmic clatter of wheels on the tracks. I don't know how long I sat there, staring out the window at the darkness beyond. Minutes? Hours? Time felt warped, stretched thin. Eventually, the train pulled into another station. This one was worse than the others. Cracked tiles, broken lights, and a thick fog rolling across the platform. And there, in the fog, was a figure. It stood still, its outline blurred, watching me. I didn't wait to find out what it wanted. I bolted to the opposite end of the car, slamming every button I could find to open the doors. But nothing worked. The figure stepped onto the train. I woke up in my bed this morning, my clothes still damp with sweat. The train ticket was on my nightstand, but the timestamp was wrong. It said I'd boarded 3 hours after my usual time. I don't know where I went or how I got back, but I'm not taking the train anymore. Thank you for watching the video. Subscribe to the channel, like it, and don't forget to leave a comment. See you in the next video. Good luck!